Make a Path presents Let's Talk. Let's Talk. Predictions for The Walking Dead Season 5, Episode 12. Remember. Alright, Deadheads, the background is different. Yes, I know. There was some sound quality issues with the last room I was in. I had everything set up the last time, and then when I went to do a video, I noticed the central air unit is louder than I even realized. I just wasn't thinking. Bottom line, okay? So, when I got in from out of town, my daughter got snowed in at her grandmother's. I took advantage of that opportunity, and I switched some rooms around. You'll see it when it's all the way complete. So that's why it's different. Anyway, I am about upgrading all the time on this channel, not downgrading, and I felt like that sound was downgrading. So, I just wanted to put that out there. Let's move right into the predictions. We'll talk about the new set in another video, and I'll even show it off. And yes, I got more videos like that coming. A lot of people are asking. But, into the predictions. Guys, I think we're going to slow down in this episode. We're definitely going to get a shaved Rick. We're probably only going to get one Walker battle scene attack, and it's not even going to be, too big. I think we're going to get introductions to a couple characters, maybe even a setup on a story or two to happen later, and then we're going to check in on some of the characters, our characters, the survivors, and see how they're doing, first getting into Alexandria and accepting that this place is even real, and whether or not they trust the other people in this place. Now that in a nutshell is what I think is going to happen. Something we have to keep in mind when we're doing these prediction videos is 44 minutes goes by a lot faster than we think, because we'll sit here and say, this is going to happen, this is going to happen, this is going to happen, and then next thing you know, we're watching the episode, and 20 minutes went by, and Rick just talked to somebody, you know what I'm saying? Or whatever it is. So, 44 minutes goes by like this. So, we're not getting this crazy, I don't want to spill it, but a lot of people are talking about comic book material. We're not getting all that in this one episode. Let's slow our roll, back up a little bit, and take a look at what we might be getting in this episode. Forget about it. Not might be getting in this episode. Let's look at what we're definitely getting in this episode. 3 months ago, Nerdist News posted a video. It was Scott Ian's blood work. I'm going to put the pictures up on the screen now. Basically, what it is Scott Ian, I'm not even sure who the guy is, I think he's in music, but he was brought in to be a walker on the show, and they filmed it like a little mini documentary. We can tell from the clapper, we know that it is episode 12, and then we see Rick and he's shaven. So we know Rick gets shaved and a haircut for a fact, and it looks like the same exact place that Rick went and stashed the gun going into Alexandria. In episode 11, he stashed that pistol. That was Joe's pistol, I believe. Anyway, he stashes the pistol to use just like he did at Terminus as a backup in case things went wrong and they took his guns. Now, a lot of people are saying that this is going to be the comic book version of when he had Glenn sneak in the comic book and steal the guns back. It might not be, because we could look at the images and we know that Rick has his revolver. So they either took their guns and then gave him the revolver back when he got back outside of the gates. But there's a bigger question. Why did he go outside of the gates if he has a gun? What excuse did he use to get outside of the gates unless he felt comfortable already and was like, listen, I stashed a gun, I'm going to go get it. You know what I mean? Or he was doing some kind of patrol. He talked them into doing a patrol and looking at the perimeter. That sounds good. In the comic book, they did do that. Rick said, you know what, I want to do a perimeter check, and Douglas, the leader in the comic book, said, hey, you know what, just make sure you're letting people know, because, you don't want a stranger or a new guy just walking through their yards. And it was like that weird, wow, this is a zombie apocalypse, you know what I'm saying? So maybe he does that. I'm going to do a perimeter check, and he goes to get his gun. Sounds good. Then when he gets back, maybe he hands in his revolver and keeps the pistol. Hey, that sounds good. But back to the scene, I think that's going to be the only action scene. He goes back to get the pistol. It looks like it's him and Carl. When the Scott Ian, the guy who's a walker, he's talking about how he's so excited to be on The Walking Dead. We could see in the background, it looks like Carl knocked a walker to the ground, kills the walker, gets up, and then handles one on his feet. It also looks like Rick has one on the ground, And then he goes and maybe he helps Carl. And we also see that the Scott Ian, he's hiding under this rug, basically junk and garbage next to this house. We can see the base of a blender to the right on this image. So we do know that the blender has to be close. It makes sense that this is the area. So I'm thinking Rick goes to this spot. We know from the video that Nerdist News put up, this where the images are from, that the walker, Scott, jumps out of this rug area, grabs a hold of Rick's leg, and I'm assuming that he takes a pipe to the head or a gunshot to the head. I'm going to guess they don't want to attract attention, so I'm going to go with knives to the head instead of gunfire. So that looks like it's going to be our action scene. Let me think. Was there anything else? I had images on my phone I was going to look at to make sure I didn't miss anything, but my daughter just, Grand Theft Auto'd my phone, so I have nothing. So let me just think a moment. Don't worry, I'm going to edit this out. And you know what? I'm drawing a total blank. I'm pretty sure I covered everything I wanted to cover with that scene. Now, another thing, they showed us a sneak peek of Carl coming up the steps, and he pulled a knife, and he was about to open a door, and it's all dramatic. I think that's just hype. I didn't hear anything, so I don't think Carl heard anything. And if he did walk in on something, it's probably just Rick getting his hair cut, That's a joke. If anything, I'm just thinking that this is the subtle way to show that this young boy is so traumatized from life out in the wild. I mean, they're also traumatized, essentially, that their way of living is they can't even open a door in a house without thinking or getting ready or prepared to kill somebody or something. You know what I'm saying? So I'm thinking that's all it's trying to show. And he pulls a knife, which leads me to believe that maybe they did take his gun. As far as the Pete Anderson character that was already name-dropped in episode 11, Aaron told Noah that he was a good surgeon. I don't believe everyone's jumping the gun and thinking we're going to get this whole showdown. I don't think we're going to get the whole showdown. It's possible. They could throw it in there, depending on how fast they want to move. But I think what's more likely is we just get introduced to the characters, and then Rick sees a black eye or maybe signs of abuse or something like that. I think it sets it up, and we get it in episode 13, because we still have 13, 14, 15, and 16 to knock out of the park. And like I said, there's a lot to fill in the 40 minutes. We got to be introduced to Deanna. We've got to meet some of the other cast. Obviously, we're going to meet Olivia. She's the one in the comic who cuts Rick's hair and sets him up with new clothes, and I believe she handles like inventory. It looks like the characters are going to start getting more adapted into living in Alexandria. They maybe even start going right into giving everyone jobs and things like that. It might move quicker than what I was thinking necessarily, because I thought we would have one whole episode before in Alexandria before we went into the jobs and everything like that. And from the trailer, it did look like a very similar image from the comic book where they were giving them housing. And again, I'm really hoping the characters decide to live in the same house and get comfortable, because that's what they're used to, and they don't really trust them yet. You know what I'm saying? Let's talk about Douglas and Deanna a minute. Deanna is the leader, essentially, or what we're guessing, of Alexandria. At least from what Aaron said, she's the one who knows all the answers to everything that's going on there. It's very possible that Deanna is she could be the political figure that knew about the base. She could be the political figure that handles the politics of it, and her husband could lead. Douglas could still be in this. But I do think it's very interesting to remix the leader as a female, in the sense that Rick might see her, and I know this is going to sound sexist, but Rick might see her as somebody who's not ready to repel the attacks that could come from people like the governor or Garrett's people, or the new threat, which is the scavengers, the wolves. It could start building up the paranoia now with Rick, and that would be really awesome to watch Rick sort of become the villain. Not the villain in the sense of being the bad guy or becoming Shane. That's a popular term people like to use, but in a sense where his paranoia gets the better of him. That darkness that Michonne was talking about starts getting the better of him. And maybe he starts seeing Alexandria for a place that they can survive now. They don't have to be out in the wild anymore, but he doesn't think that the current leadership can handle keeping this place running, and he's very afraid of losing it. So again, that darkness and that paranoia now is gonna maybe take over him, and maybe we're gonna get a nice cliffhanger where we see that forming for this episode. Other than that, I do not believe this episode is going to go right into anything with domestic problems, or not anything deep with external problems like the wolves or the scavengers, but I think it's more along the lines of setup. I see this episode being more set up. Setting up more of the story that's going to play out in episodes 13, 14, 15, and 16. You see what I'm saying? We are in a new area now. We're going to get a few introductions, a lot of introductions possibly, to new characters. And I'm sure that's going to happen throughout the episodes. But so don't think that we're going to hit the ground and run at this point. I think we're going to pump our brakes. And it's time for introductions and setups, as well as dealing with the emotions of the characters who were just one moment away from breaking and giving up. Just moments before they came to Alexandria. You know what I'm saying? So if you guys have any predictions you want to add to this, go ahead and leave them in the comments section. I got a lot of work to do, so I'm done talking. It's your turn.
Subscribe now.